In the beginning,
there were two sides, the Allied forces or the Central Powers. For the Central Powers, we have Great Britain, Russia, France, and Serbia. For the Allied forces, we have Germany, Austria, Hungary, and Italy. The entire First World War started with two shots fired by a Bosnian activist from Serbia. With these two shots, the Austrian Archduke Franz Ferdinand and his wife Sophia were murdered. This one incident led to the terrible events of the early 1900s known as World War I.
Shortly after the death of the Austrian Archduke, the Germans sprang into action, naming General Alfred von Schlieffen. He came to the conclusion that a two-front war would be fought. On the Western Front, Germany quickly engaged in a battle with France. Germany, however, also had to protect their eastern border against Russia. The Schlieffen Plan called for a small part of the German army to hold off Russia, while the majority would advance to France. It was decided the best way to attack France was to pass through Belgium, a neutral country. This unfortunately led to Great Britain getting involved against Germany.
The Germans thought in using their Schlieffen Plan, they would quickly defeat France and move on to Russia. Unfortunately, the war became a stalemate. Neither France nor Germany could make any advance in the war because of the use of trench warfare. German U-boats were applied in World War I to cut Great Britain off from the world. Germany applied unrestricted warfare, which means if you try to connect with Great Britain through the sea, German U-boats will torpedo you. Even innocent civilian boats like the Lusitania and Laconia had been torpedoed by Germans for entering the boundary of Great Britain. The Lusitania had 1,198 passengers and 128 were Americans. Because innocent Americans were killed, the U.S. wanted to go to war. Then in 1915 through 1917, the Germans would check the boats for war material that would be given to Great Britain. Instead of sinking every boat, including ones with innocent people on board, but in 1917 the unrestricted submarine warfare was back.
I just intercepted the Zimmerman note. Mexico, please attack Texas and Arizona from Germany.
it's war.
Russia was one of the powerful countries in the Allied forces. When there was a conflict in the country, they made a choice to drop out of the war. There was internal conflict between the Tsar Nicholas and the people. Another main reason for them dropping out is that the soldiers had no means to fight a war. They were on a battlefront trying to fight Germany with no shoes and throwing rocks for weapons. This led to millions of Russian soldiers dying because they were ill-equipped.
Since Russia declared they were out of the war, Germany made its entire focus on capturing Paris, France. Although on the outskirts of Paris, Germany, troops were stopped by U.S. troops at the Second Battle of Marne. Because of the psychological factor that the U.S. had joined the war, Germany knew the U.S. would never stop and decided to drop out of the war. This ended the fighting of World War I.
In the city of Paris, France, the world's Big Four gathered together to decide how to deal with the destruction of the war. Woodrow Wilson came into the meeting bringing 14 points for peace between the countries. Although his plan for peace was turned down, when the three other countries decided on the war, guilt clause in which Germany had to pay back their debt of the war fully.
Came together to the Versailles Peace Conference and signed the Treaty of Versailles to officially end World War I. France and Britain really wanted Germany to cover all damages to the war, but the U.S. Senate refused to be any part of Europe's war, so they did not ratify it.